In this video, I want to talk about the top analysts that cover NIO Stock to see what they think about this company and how they rate it going forward. Now, there is an exception for me in this rule, as I won't be covering any analysts with absolutely terrible track records, or if they don't have any other notes or highlights for the company, or if they haven't rated this company at all in 2022. So with those stipulations out of the way, I just want to show you a couple last things just to give a little bit more context that NIO Stock is currently at $20 a share, like flat. So this is going to be perfect whenever we're looking at the analysts actually showing any upside or downside percentages. It's going to be a nice flat number for us. And lastly, whenever we just flip over to the actual, tip ranks thing that actually organizes what we have here, there's 17 people that are saying buy for this company, 2 that are holding, and absolutely none that say this company is a sell, even though, news has been rocky for NIO lately. So right now, the price target right now is $44.06, leaving an average of 120% upside for NIO Stock. And what's even funnier, let me just switch over to this side. You can see that the lowest rating is $28.30, which is still a 41% upside on this company. But now that we have all that out of the way, we can jump into our first 15 analysts with our most recent one, who is from UBS, and this is Paul. Paul's actually a pretty interesting character here because he has a below average success rate, but like an unbelievable rate of return at 38.9% on his average return, okay? And it's probably because he takes massive bets, like his NIO call right here of $32 a share or a 60% upside. But let's just jump over to what he has to say and what he's really excited for why he thinks that this price is going to go up. And it says, Paul pointed out that sales growth slowed with aging vehicle lineups, but that growth should accelerate with new model introductions such as the ET5 midsize sedan, which is actually supposed to be closer to like the Model 3 of the Tesla lineup, which is going to be very, very exciting for NIO. But now let's just jump into our next one. We're going to have to rapid fire through them so then we can actually get through all 15 of these within a reasonable time. And that leads us to Edison, okay? And Edison actually has a terrible success rate and an even worse average rate of return. But that doesn't take away from his bullish stance on NIO, for which he's been initiating coverages all the way whenever it was $17, even saying that it was a buy at $62 a share. Now, saying that it's $50 a share is what he's putting his price target at over 150% upside. And Edison has some interesting things to say about this, okay? So what he's also talking about, and I'm actually just gonna show you the title of this article because I think it actually shows more to what he has to say, but they're saying that the narrative shifts from supply constraints to product supercycle, very much what Paul had to say about how they're sort of getting away from their old models and they're going to be reinvigorating their customers with these new, better vehicles that might have a lot of better products. Another thing that I wanted to cover for Edison here, which I thought was very interesting, is that this analyst also named NIO in their top pick out of all the companies that they actually cover. Now, moving right over to our next analyst, Jeff from Citigroup, you can see this guy is a straight madman, okay? Success rate, very much like what we've seen with the other ones. Average rate of return, 2.8%. I mean, he's losing to inflation, but that doesn't stop him from saying that NIO stock is going to be worth $87 a share, at least within the next 12 months, leaving a 335% upside. And this guy's actually been covering this stock for an extremely long period of time, so he's very, very close with this company. Now, in Jeff's actual report here, let me just zoom up so that you can see this. He said, management highlight that for the upcoming facelift models that would come with strong product competitiveness, including smart hardware, computing power improvements, which would justify the upcoming MSRP hike, the actual price of the vehicles. Overall, management expects vehicle models to maintain a relatively stable MSRP and gross profit margin. Now, we're already starting to see some patterns emerge here as the most recent analysts are all starting to talk about how, the newest models to start coming out are going to lead to a huge revolution for, NIO stock, leading to a 335% upside on this stock of what Jeff had to say. Holy, what an amazing price. Now, jumping on over to our next analyst, Martin, I actually wasn't going to cover him, and you'll see why. His success rate isn't very good and his average return is even worse. There's nothing worse than 0%, but still, he hasn't been doing this for a very long time. All of his ratings are actually relatively new. So just reading Martin's notes here, they're a little bit small, but I can read them still. So due to the lingering supply chain issues that stem from the semiconductor shortage and battery cost inflation, Q4 was not an easy quarter for the electric vehicle sector. And then going on here, however, NIO's new models in 2022 should help revive its pipeline. This is exactly what the other analysts are saying, and it's very important that all these analysts are extremely bullish on what the new models have to offer. This is, of course, if the actual vehicle production actually doesn't get halted, for which it did, and hopefully that gets resumed shortly, which, none of these analysts I have actually seen. This is too recent of news for these new analysts to actually see how this is affecting the new models, so we're going to have to price that in as well. Now, jumping on over to our fifth analyst, this is going to be Jung from Barclays. You can actually see that his success rate is actually a lot better than the others. It's still in the 40 percentiles, so still in the red, but a 14% upside, still pretty good, okay? A pretty good analyst that we see here. And he's saying that NIO is actually going to be a $34 price range or a 70% upside. This is what's crazy. Even whenever we see these lower prices like $34, it's still a 70% upside from where it is today. Now, just jumping back into what he actually had to say in his notes on this stock, they left it with an overweight rating, which is as high as it goes, and then also led to saying solid delivery performance and vehicle gross margins, pre-orders of the new models like the ET7 and ET5 are ahead of management's prior expectations. There's a new factory on track to be in production in September, continued strong demand for existing models, and high market share in a targeted vehicle class. These are all things that Jung really liked about this stock and why he's pushing the stock up 70% from where it is today and why he thinks it's so oversold. Now, the next analyst is a little bit different. This is VJ, and he actually doesn't have notes, so I wasn't going to cover him, but I didn't want to seem crazy like every single person that's looking at NIO stock has a bad record or rate of return, okay? This man has an extremely high success rate and an even higher average return. This is such a good return, not as high as the 38%, but I mean, that person was a crazy man. So VJ actually has a $60 rating on this stock or a 200% upside that he rated 15 days ago, whenever the stock was the exact same price it was today in the $20 range. I still wanted to bring this up to just show you guys how bullish VJ is on this company, even though we don't have any notes. It's still very nice to see that another person, almost like confirmation bias, is believing what I believe in this company as well. The next one on our list is also very special in the way that I thought about cutting him. So an only 13% success rate, a negative 42.9% average return. So don't listen to this guy on his downside of selling coin at $135 a share. I mean, how crazy is that? But anyway, whenever it comes to his NIO stock, there's a $40 price range or 100% upside. I also put him on this list just because I want you guys to see his notes as well, because he's the only one that actually brings up about how their sales network in China and how they're actually looking to, go into other European markets where they say here, Germany, Netherlands, Sweden, Denmark, all this year. So that's very important to bring up, and no other analyst actually talks about it. That's the only reason why I added Bo, but anyway. The next analyst up on our list is actually Ming, who once again has a terrible track record, but he loves, these Chinese-based auto manufacturers, for which, just talking about NIO today is a $32.40 price range, which is up over 62% if what he believes comes true. I also just wanted to say that Ming, whenever you actually look here, he doesn't even have very many ratings at all. He's quite new to actually covering these companies, and so the actual, comments or things that he's looking at for NIO are a very base level, or at least how I see it. I obviously don't want to speak for him, but you can even see in his notes here whenever we bring it up that, the things that he's talking about is like they're well-positioned in high-end electric vehicles. The company is also a leader in battery as a service and is expecting incremental revenue from its upcoming NAD software launch. It's not quite as in-depth. He's just saying how they actually lead the battery as a service business, which if you follow NIO for at least even a little bit, you know that already. You don't need some analyst to tell you that. Next up on the list, we have Tim here, okay? So you can see another terrible performance, but another big reason for why this is happening. Whenever you look at the companies that these are covering, or that Tim's covering, 13 ratings are coming from NIO, and NIO's been having a bad trend lately. So long term, it can be very successful, but considering how, easily these actual ratings are being rated for, maybe even less than 12 months, they can considerably, attack his average rating if, he's very bullish on a company that actually gets attacked in the short term. With that out of the way, there's still a $34 price range that he's putting on this stock, which is a 70% upside. And actually, Tim has some pretty interesting things to talk about. See, Tim actually took his price target from $66 and practically halved it to $34, saying saying there's an evaluating macro headwinds and severe supply chain challenges as near-term challenges, but feels confident that the company's superior liquidity and revenue visibility will have it well positioned to ride out any economic downturn. Now on to our next analyst, Nick from JP Morgan. Nick puts a $30 price range on this company, or a 50% upside, actually saying NIO will likely see volume growth of about 80% in 2022 to 2023. Well, also longer term, content and software monetization will likely become an increased source of their revenue and profits. Now, this next analyst, honestly, I just added because I wanted you guys to see this average rate of return, okay? So success rate, 26%. So he gets, 1 out of every 4 ratings that he gets is correct, but yet still an average return of 45.5%, which means whenever he gets them right, he slams them out of the park, okay? And whenever it comes to NIO, for which he's actually covered 26 times, all the way back whenever this stock was in its $3 range, he's still saying that this stock is at a $30 range, or what it should be, or a 50% upside. Now, this comes with no article, so there's nothing that he actually, mentions on this stock, but it's still very, very exciting to see that this man has a 45.5% average rate of return. Our next analyst actually comes from Bernstein, who's Eunice, okay? And now Eunice, don't want to keep talking about it. That's just, it's terrible. And his notes are actually quite great here. So whenever we look over, you can see here he's talking about how NIO's listing, on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange was so important for, a lot of our American investors because we didn't actually have to risk delisting. And now this actually poses what he says, no dilution to existing shareholders. So also very, very important because it was a secondary listing. Next up on our list is actually a Credit Suisse analyst, Ben. And Ben actually has some pretty, unique success rates and average returns like anyone else, but he's also a Super Bowl of $83 a share, or a 315% upside, okay? And whenever we look over at his notes, you can see here that NIO is his top pick in the Chinese auto space, citing clear growth prospects in 2022. Anyways, guys, that rounds out our analyst top picks. There was actually some ones that I realized as I was going through it that they said a lot of the very exact same things that other analysts had to say, so I just sort of cut them out of the picture, very similar price ranges, all between that sort of $20 to $8 range, all the way up into the $80 ranges, which is just insane. Now, obviously, these were only a couple reasons to like NIO stock, but if you want to see all 34 reasons to buy NIO stock right now, you can see why I'm doing it right there. But if you haven't already, make sure you guys like the video down below and subscribe down below if you want to see more financial content just like this.